back to On a Journey with Giselle. I am your host, and I'm so excited that you tuned back in. Thank you for clicking that button. To my newcomers, this is a podcast where we're just on a journey. Everybody's on a journey, and I wanted to share that because through life, we go through different journeys. And on this podcast, we're going to be talking about the journeys of fitness and wellness in different areas in which you might be experiencing throughout those journeys. Today on the episode, we're going to be continue a discussion on self-love, but this is going to be self-love after devastation. It's a coincidence. We just ended a event, a season of time, a period. Some people like to call it a holiday, and that is Valentine's Day. And this episode will not be about Valentine's Day and heartbrokenness, none of that. Though we've all experienced it, and it is a part of devastation, I do want to really just hone in and talk about, if you have experienced that recently, I want to hone in and talk about, as a whole, how do you self-love yourself after devastation? So that's what we're going to be talking about. I know there's a lot of post-Valentine's emotions that might be going on. So if this resonates with you, apply these skills. But if not, there will be other areas that we're going to be talking about, and devastation applies to that, whether it's a loss of job, an adjustment, some grieving that you might be going through, or it is what it is, a heartbreak. We're going to be discussing that. So we're going to talk about that shock of the devastation. What does that look like? And how through self-love you can allow yourself to feel in a positive realm. We're also going to be talking about practices of self-love that you can practice during your devastation, through your devastation. And lastly, we're going to be breaking down myths of self-love. I'm also going to end with a scripture that resonated with me, so stay tuned to the end because we have some fun stuff, okay? But before we get started, I just want you to really think about, what does self-love look like for you today? In this moment, pause it if you need to. What does self-love look like for you today? Okay? Think about that as we go into this episode. Y'all ready? So I do hope that you have been enjoying this conversation on self-love, consistency, and the importance of it. Today, I really want to first talk about how there's a shock. You get the news, you get the understanding, you come to the acceptance. There's a devastation in your life. Whether that's a loss of a person, a hope, an expectation, you feel something, right? And that feeling might be through emotion or physically, but it can be overwhelming. You might be angry, you might be instantly saddened, but that initial shock is something that you want to start with to help you on your journey of loving yourself through it. And I want to acknowledge that there are challenges that you may have in managing these emotions. So something that might be a challenge is that you have to go to work, and it might be a devastation that you really just are not feeling it, and you're like, maybe the grief hasn't, from a loss of a person or a loss of an expectation, you really just want to stay in bed. Like, that's a reality, but that's a challenge that you have to manage because you have daily responsibility. And so for me, the biggest thing that I took away, because honestly, y'all, I'll be real, I have recently faced devastation, not one that I'm really ready to get into yet, but one that I am processing through. And, I will say, I've had different circumstances of devastation, but this is one that I actually felt the shock, but my response to it was completely different. And I learned through this that I do love, like, how to love myself. And that's essentially why we're doing this today. Today, I want you to know that grief, it doesn't follow a timeline, and that is okay. So when you're thinking about that initial state, there's going to be feelings. There's going to be, emotions that you're feeling. Maybe you're in denial. Maybe you're angry. Maybe you don't want to accept it and you have to. And all of that might interrupt your daily functioning. And nobody talks about that. And I wanted to talk about that. So I want you to know, when you're experiencing that, don't put a time on it. Don't put a time on it. Accept it, acknowledge it, and really just take it one step at a time. And I know that's so cliche to say, but one step at a time is not necessarily like taking big steps. Maybe they're small steps, right? Going to work. You got up and you went to work. You got up and you went to the grocery store. You got up and you didn't talk to that person. You got up and you didn't follow a routine that you might have normally been used to doing, right? So I wanted to talk about that because that's essentially like the first thing. And from that shock, you're going to develop feelings, right? That's what we're discussing. And those feelings are painful. You know, when this past devastation that I experienced, it was painful. It came as a shock, like I discussed. And then there were so many emotions, more so like the emotion of disappointment and pure hurt, like pure hurt that I haven't experienced on this level, and I really didn't know how to process it. And in therapy, we're working on feeling my feelings. So, where I wanted to go to negative coping skills, tell everybody, wanting people to feel bad for me, I really couldn't. I had to literally sit in those painful feelings. And that wasn't good for me, but it was good for me. It was so necessary because it showed me that I can tap into another realm of me that made me stronger than what I really was. And what that looked like is not repressing, because when we think about the challenges of the hurt or devastation, the first instinct is to like, I'm okay. No, you're not okay. And it was that in the first week I experienced this, like, people, how are you doing? Like, I'm making it. Not in a depressing way. Good. Like, I couldn't really give my normal, like, I'm doing good, because I wasn't. But I was honest with myself, but I didn't express it. I didn't tell everybody what it was. It's just like, how you doing today? I'm making it. Because in my mind, that was my motivation. So, like, that was my small step. And I want to encourage somebody that might be going through a devastation is like, use your own steps, right? It doesn't have to be daunting and sad, but if you're not feeling it, if you're not saying, like, if you have some responsibilities that you have to take care of, and you're not there, like, it's okay to acknowledge that I'm not here, but I'm not going to let it ruin my day. I'm going to go to work. How am I doing? I'm making it. I'm doing okay. I'm here, right? But the biggest thing is, don't stay there. Don't stay there. And that's the thing with grief. Like, the next feeling, like, that I talked about, it comes at, it's a process. Grief is a process. So with grief, it comes in waves. There's numbness, there's sadness, there's exhaustion. All of that is normal. And the thing that's not really talked about, though, is allowing yourself to feel it, such as the headaches, the aches. Those things are real. Like, don't dwell on them, but, acknowledge that they're there. And the next thing is that you might feel is feeling numb. And what that means is, like, nothing matters. Like, nothing matters. You're just like, okay, like, nothing matters. And another feeling that you might feel is sluggish. It's just like you're just trying to make it through the day. When you get home, if you're able to just do nothing when you have to, like, get back into the world, you have to force yourself to get out of the bed. Like, so basically it's just like, dang, I'm not feeling this today, but I know I have to get out of the bed. And it's like, it's so uncomfortable that you have to take it day by day, because it is a process. That's sluggish. Like, you're not feeling it, like, but you have to get up and do your daily activities. And so with that, when you allow, these are some of the things that you were going to feel with grief and feeling and sitting with your pain, and it's all okay. And the biggest thing, a part of this, when we talk about self-love, is understanding that healing isn't instant. It is a daily process. It doesn't come automatically. It's a step by step. One day you might feel up and you're like, okay, I did this, I got through it. Or next day, those memories and everything, or that routine or something might have came back to you, and you're back to where you want. So self-love during devastation might seem impossible, because you might be going back and forth. And the thing is that even though you might be going back and forth, understand that you don't have to have it figured out. And I think when you grasp that concept during devastation, to just take it one day at a time, it's going to help you learn how to accept it and deal with it. But I want you to know that feeling your feelings and understanding grief is a process. That is the first steps, really, of loving yourself. And I know that sounds like, what? That doesn't sound like it at all, but it's true, because you have to accept it and you have to acknowledge it, even if it's painful and even if it takes time. So yeah, I wanted to break those down, like the shock and feeling your feelings. So what can you do about this? What can you do about these feelings? What can you do about the shock when you're taking it one day at a time? And how can I practice self-love through devastation? Well, I'm glad you asked. I want to tell you. So, you want to kind of, like I said, we talked about the feelings that you're going to feel. Like, you want to try to stay as close as you can and as up to you are maintaining your routine. So, start small, exercising, eating well, small acts of care. I'm not saying don't reward yourself. Like, for example, if you're like, this happened to me, I don't deserve it. Like, no, don't do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but something like this, like something I realized, I want to break it down for me before I say that. Like, let's break it down for Giselle. So when I experienced devastation in the past, something that I would do is like, I don't feel like this. I'm not doing this. I'm not going to maintain my exercising. I'm going to eat what I want to eat. I am not feeling, I emotionally ate. You want to stay away from that because that is going to not help you stay nutrients and have that energy that you need to keep picking yourself up. And I learned going through my devastation that I'm going through, and that when I kept my routine, even if I didn't feel like it, even if it meant crying in the gym, yeah. Even if it meant crying in the gym, I still got up. Even if it meant crying at my counter, I still fixed my healthy meals. So those small things, those small acts of maintaining my routine was practices of self-care that helped me love myself through devastation. The next thing is to lean into your support. You know how we talked about we want to repress it, we don't want to bother anybody. I'm not saying go tell the whole world, but there should be one or two, three people that you can talk to say, like, I'm hurt. Like, this happened to me, or I never expected this to happen. So that way you'll have people that can check in on your mental, check in on your emotions, check in on you, right? And another thing is to that will by doing that practice, you're practicing self-love by not damaging your internal body, by repressing your emotions. And another practice that you can do is write it out, journaling, right? You don't got to go to the blogs, Facebook, or whatever. You can simply write small prayers. For me, I wrote, God, I need your help. Amen. I journaled. This is how I'm feeling. I was waking up in the middle of the night. Instead of laying there, I got up. I read scriptures through my tears. I wrote out how I was feeling through my tears. So it's just like, and I called my friends through my tears. So it's just like, regardless of what it is, like, you have to let people in. And that's the practice of self love, because that's going to help you become free through whatever devastation that you're experiencing, and you're releasing the negativity towards your body. The next thing is to stay engaged and stay active. For me, I had to like get off socials for a weekend. I had to fast. Like, to be honest, like, I had to fast. I didn't watch television. So for me, that helped me, practice self-care towards my mind and my emotions, which reverted in me loving myself, not to fall into negativity or comparison. So that helped me from keeping my mind from spiraling. And that's a healthy way to do it. I'm not saying that you don't have to watch TV. There was a day where I was like, I made it through work. I made it through the tears, coming home and watching television. And I did just that. But then I got up the next day and I was like, today we are off the socials. We are off television. We're going to write out how we're feeling. We're going to phone some friends. We're going to do this. And that's how I practice self-love. So like I said, it goes back to your practices of self-love through devastation is a day-by-day thing. It's a process, right? It's not going to be perfect every day. And lastly, the biggest thing that really helped me through this that was different is the moment I got my devastation. I was hurt. I questioned God sometimes, but I leaned into him. The biggest thing, Proverbs 3:5-7 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not unto your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he'll direct your path. And that's something I said to God all the time. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. Like, I questioned God. I said, God, why? Like, why? But the biggest thing it is that I remembered, I used to get in trouble a lot growing up because of my mouth. And something that like resonated was like, I was like, as I was getting older, and people was like, Giselle, it's not, we're telling you not to talk. We're telling you, like, it's what you say. And then I read about anger in the Bible. And it's like, not saying, God is not saying don't get angry, don't have feelings. It's what you do with those feelings that matter. Are you reacting in a way that's negatively, that will lead to sin, that will lead to a way that doesn't honor you or God? So I really remember that, and that's a way to practice and lean in to your, into your spiritual, like loving yourself spiritually through devastation, is to lean into God. Acknowledge that you're not understanding, why did this happen. You might be upset, but the biggest thing is to just give it to God and keep giving it to God. Even yourself, I'm mad, God, like I'm not happy, like talk to him. He wants you to talk to him. But that's a big way to help you stay grounded through devastation. And I could go on, because honestly, and I might follow this up with sharing my story, but I really wanted to speak on this, especially, regardless of, how your weekend might have unfolded, or, Valentine's Day, or maybe you got some bad news, or maybe you're facing a devastation with death, or something that's devastating. To each his own, right? But I just wanted to share this with you all, because we're all on this journey. We all face devastation. And it's important to remember, through devastation, you can still love yourself. It just looks differently. And you have to take it one day at a time. So before we end the show and wrap it up, I want to share some myths that, I've heard before. You've heard them before. But I also want to tell you some truths as well. So we've all probably heard it. If not, maybe I'm gonna share. So self-love means feeling good all the time. How you gonna feel good through devastation? You're not always gonna feel good. And that's not as positive and as optimistic as I am. I don't feel good all the time. I don't. There's times I call my aunt and she's like, okay, like, I see you're not feeling it, right? But the truth is, sometimes it's just surviving the day without self-sabotage. That's what it is. That is what it is. Next is, if you loved yourself, you wouldn't be that sad. That is not true. It is okay to be sad. It is okay to be mad. But remember, like we said, self-love is allowing yourself to fully feel your emotions. Fully feel your emotions. So it's okay to be sad. Let's break that myth. And the last one that I want to share with you is that self-love is a one-time thing. What do we say? What is the name of this podcast? It is Journey. Self-love is a daily practice. It is not a destination. That's the truth. Self-love is a daily practice. It is not a definition. So y'all, I appreciate this. I really hope that somebody has gotten something from this message. I hope that you're healed. I hope that things have resonated with you. I really just want to reinforce that self-love is a choice, and it doesn't have to look perfect. Self-love is a choice, and it doesn't have to look perfect. And as you go through the rest of your week, you can do it in one setting, or you can do it throughout the week. Share it with a friend. I want to ask you 3 questions. We started with one, and that is, what does self-love look like for you today? Maybe do that every day. If you're facing a devastation, so that way you can write the vision out, make it plain. Maybe you can just write it out and see, this is what self-love looks like for me today. The next question is, what old coping mechanisms am I choosing to leave behind? And that's big, because in self-love, you don't want to return to things that didn't positively impact you and help you grow and move forward. Negative things keep you held down. Negative coping skills cannot help you to love yourself as a whole, but especially through devastation. So what negative coping skills do you want to leave behind? And then lastly, what are 3 ways that you can show yourself love this week? So write down 3 ways that you can show yourself love this week. And remember, it's your own. It's not what anybody else does to love themselves. What can you do to love yourself? Whether that's sleeping in a little bit longer and just getting more sleep, eating a piece of chocolate, whether it's just watching a show if you don't watch TV. And I named all those things because that's for me. I get up early, don't watch TV during the week, and I don't eat candy right now. So maybe one day I might need some candy. One day I might need some chocolate. I mean, yeah, chocolate maybe. One day I might need to sleep in a little bit more. Maybe I just want to enjoy a show one day. I'm going to allow myself to do that. So my final thought is the scripture from Isaiah 43:19 that I came across during this period of devastation for me. And I want to share that with you as we end today. And that is, see, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Study that in your own message. I got this from the NLT version, but you can study in the message version as well. Basically, what it's saying is God is doing a new thing. This devastation is not going to last. God is doing a new thing in your life, and I want to share that with you. Thank you all for tuning in so much. And you know what I always say. Until next time, peace, love, and happiness.